Hey, Bryce. Hey, JB. Teddy on Facebook Live, welcome. Present for class. Well, we'll see. We're gonna be bestowed with some knowledge on importing animals into the country from somebody who actually did it. So we're excited for that. Welcome everybody, Kamoya, Colin, Respect, Westside Farm, Godfather. Welcome everyone. I see our guest on Facebook Live, but I don't see him on Instagram. Good evening, everyone. Nick on Facebook. How is everybody dealing with the rain? Oh my gosh. You know what they say, be careful what you ask for, right? We're getting so much rain. I don't know if this earth can, our land here can take much more water. It's crazy. Here's our guest of honor. We're gonna get him on in a minute. You guys should share this link. Share with everybody you know that you think will be interested in getting this knowledge. You know, if you're thinking about importing animals or just, you know, want to know the process and the impact it can have on the sector or your farm, do share. Please share the link with everyone that you think would benefit from this information, because we're gonna get some real first-hand knowledge from a regular farmer, you know, somebody who did it, and the result, its impact on the sector has been unbelievable. Just about every farmer that has, you know, Boer goats or whatever can tell you, oh, I got the Archer line. So there you go. All right, let's see if we get up to 15 people watching. Please share, so we can get the numbers up and get this and share this information. Let's not keep it to ourselves. Mr. Henry, welcome. Cruz, I see Cruz. Cruz is at home, I think. Facebook Massive, Blaine Thompson, Jack Banks, Respect, Nick. So yeah, please share. Let's share this link. All right, I'm gonna bring in Mr. Archer and get this discussion going. Good evening, sir.
Hey Ray,
How
evening.
are you?
Yeah, man, I'm good.
Welcome to iGoat Chat.
All right, great. Thanks for having me.
Um, this is where we share as much information as we can with our fellow farmers.
All right, good.
So I can hardly hear you. You may need to. Oh, there you go. Is that better, folks?
Yeah, you can't hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
All right, good.
So for everybody who don't know, this is Mr. Al Archer, a pioneer in importing animals to Jamaica.
You know, after
No,
I wouldn't say the pioneer. There's
no,
a lot of
I didn't
people.
say the. I said one of the
Yeah, one
pioneers.
of the pioneers. Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
especially the Boer goats. I don't know
yes.
if there's anybody else before you that imported Boer goats.
Oh, yes, man, definitely, man. Ken King is the first person that come to mind. He was doing a
Okay,
lot of importation around about the same time I was doing it. And
okay,
before me, you had McQuinney, Lottie McQuinney, past president of the Goat Association, and his brother. I think his brother might have been the first person imported Boer goats. I'm not 100% sure.
okay. All
And
right.
yeah,
So let's give the people a little of your background, like you know how you started, whether you started as a farmer or not, as an entrepreneur. Let's start there.
well, yeah, I've always been an entrepreneur basically all my life. Uh, how I got as a child, I used to go to the country every summer. And I had an Uncle Brownie, right there St. Mary, still living, still going strong with his goats.
Oh, cool.
I used to see him raising goats and all. Seeing, I had the privilege of giving him one of the Boer goats a couple of years ago. Man, it was
Nice.
amazing. But anyway, it was always in the back of my mind. A part of my business is the last, round about the late 90s, me and my brothers had some supermarkets in Spanish Town. And we had to deal with a lot of problems. Like, I look at extortion here, there, robberies. And the
Mm-hmm.
final straw was about 2001. We had a robbery in one of the stores and a security guard died. And my brothers decided to pack it up. A few years before that, I was kind of inching into the goat rearing,
Okay.
going down to St. Elizabeth, getting that Boer goat from Fitness. Oh, that's another pioneer I should mention.
Okay.
Fitness
See,
from St.
that's
Elizabeth.
how much I know about this thing. That's why we got people like you coming on to
Yeah,
give
man, I
us
have to
the
mention his name.
education.
He died a couple years ago, though. Mr.
Okay.
Fitness in
Mm-hmm.
Treasure Beach. I bought my
Okay.
first purebred from him.
Oh.
And his breed of purebreds came out of Canada.
Okay.
So, after we closed down the supermarkets in Spanish Town, my brothers migrated. One
Okay.
went to North Carolina, the other went to England with his wife. And I had a few goats in Spanish Town, but I eventually bought a bigger farm in Clarendon and
Yeah.
decided to kind of go all out, so to speak. You know?
Wow.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. That was the beginning of the journey, so to speak.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what made you jump into importing the animals? What pushed you to make that decision that you wanted to import animals?
Okay, well, there was not in terms of availability. Round
Mm-hmm.
about the time I had bought my first purebred from Mr. Finlayson, I think you had a lady named Anne Hawk from Canada that used to
Mm-hmm.
bring in goats, right?
Okay.
And she would import them into Jamaica and try to pre-sell them before she came in with them, right? Or she would come in and if someone sold, she would look sale, right?
Mm-hmm.
And borders used to bring in one and two. But with it, I think most people didn't like the quality of what was coming in. And we'd see magazines. I mean, you didn't have so much access to the internet as now,
Okay.
but a little bit still. And you would see pictures of animals in the States, in South Africa.
Yeah.
And I think, and then you had a few judges that was coming to Denby from Texas, like Don Smith, Mr. Edwards from the eggs genetics, and they spoke to us. We became aware of that, and a few people like myself went and started importing goats.
So how many importations did you make? How many times did you import animals?
I imported about 3 times. The first time the first time McQuinney and a few other people were importing goats, right? And I went to Texas and I picked out about, what was it about? About 4 goats at the time, including the famous Full 100.
Okay.
If you ever heard about Full 100,
Yes.
the line that I had. And I bought those, and they came in the mass shipment.
Okay.
That was about 2,000 or so, right?
Right. So you guys pooled your resources to bring these animals in.
Exactly. Like one person would buy 4 or 5, like I did. Another person 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And I think some animals came in for Boers as well on that shipment.
Okay.
They were all organized by Lottie McKinney's brother. I forgot his first name. If Goldlin, that's in Texas, was listening now, he could confirm. I don't remember his first name. Anyway, that was the second time. That was the first time. The second time, now, I went to Texas and I brought down 5 goats. I brought in 2 bucks and 3 females. And that's when I brought in the famous X-Man line and the Magnum line.
Yeah.
Right?
I think the
Coming in. All right. Sorry about
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. You're here,
So
still here, right?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here. Yeah. So you said on the second
So
trip
I
you
brought
brought
in
in
5 goats.
the
5 goats.
yeah, which was the what lines were those on the second trip? I'm on my call off them on phone. I guess we gotta wait for him to deal with the phone call, folks.
About that.
Yeah.
This phone thing, calls coming. Sorry about it.
No, it's all
When
right.
I'm on Zoom on the laptop, we don't have that problem.
Yeah, I know. We're used to it. It happens. Yeah,
Yeah,
so you were saying on the second import you did
I
what
went
was
to
the famous
Texas.
lines?
Yeah, but the second importation, I brought in 5 goats. That was when I brought in the famous Magnum, red Magnum from the Magnum from Eggs Riles.
Yeah.
And I brought in the X-Man line at the same time, along with 3 other females. And that occasion, I went to Texas, and I brought them actually, I went to Texas, and I drove them myself, because it was just 5 animals coming in. So the logistics was a little difficult. When you have a lot of animals coming in, it's a little easier and cheaper.
Yeah.
For example, you can get a truck from Texas to Florida that probably holds about 35, 40 animals, but you can split the cost between each animal. If you're bringing down 5 animals,
then you have to you have to pay the cost of the trucking anyways.
That's right. But in that case, I was just bringing 5 animals for myself.
So you just rent a truck and drive them?
The process. So I drove them down. I just rented a U-Haul truck in Texas and drove from Texas to Florida and dropped them off at the quarantine station at the airport. That was it. It was such a coincidence that the day I was going for the animals, the very day I was flying into Texas for the animals was the day that 9/11 happened.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I was actually going to Texas. I was actually stranded in Atlanta.
Okay.
I was doing a collecting flight out of Florida through Atlanta to Texas.
Yes.
When I came off a plane in Atlanta, I saw, people just running around like crazy. I would say, what's happening? Then eventually everything unfolded, and there were no planes going out. Rent-a-car lines were like from here to Texas itself.
Yep, I remember that day.
So I booked in a hotel in Atlanta. I remember that day. I was trying to figure out what to do. And the next day I woke up, I said, let me just, instead of renting I had planned on renting the U-Haul truck in Texas to drive it to Florida. So I said, let me just get the truck right here in Atlanta. So I
Because it's
drove
better chance of getting a rental car.
exactly. So when I called, I mean, U-Haul trucks were available. I said, wow, good. No rental car, but U-Haul trucks. So I rented the U-Haul truck right there in Atlanta, drove it to Texas, spent about a day in Texas, picked up the animals, and drove back to Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, let off the goats, then dropped off the U-Haul truck at the U-Haul center. Made sure I washed it out thoroughly.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
what were the challenges you face when it comes to dealing with Jamaica red tape to get the animals in to get approval? Because right now it seems like it's a very steep hill when it comes to getting permission to import semen, embryo, animals. Animals seems like it's next to impossible now.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. A little bit before I started importation, I think it was fairly simple. You would go to the vet division of the ministry and tell them you wanted to import some animals. They tell you the conditions and the steps that you have to take. And normally you would probably test for ABC, right? So you would take that permit, you would get the permit, you would take that permit to wherever you're buying the animals and say test for ABC, right?
Yes.
They would test for ABC, you send the test back to the vet and say, okay, fine. Then give you a final permit to bring them in. Round about when I was starting, they started expanding the conditions. They say, no, you have to test for A, B, C, D, and E. You know what I mean? So you see where I'm going.
Yeah.
So we managed to do all of that and bring them in. But a little after that, they started adding more conditions. It was A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You understand? Till it got to the point where most breeders in the States could not meet those conditions.
Yeah.
And I think at one point you had a scraping issue. Maybe there was always had scrape in the state, but for some reason, maybe the vet division became aware of it or had it on their list of things they didn't want to come to Jamaica.
Yes.
So I think they had a condition where they said, whatever farm you're bringing the animal from had to be on the scraping program for a certain amount of years. And then a lot of the top breeders in the States was like, you know, we have only been on the program for a year, and the vet division would say you have to be on it for 5 years or whatever. And some breeders would say, we're not going on the scraping program because it's not necessary for us and what we do in the States.
Yes.
You understand? We're not going to change our system to suit a country like Jamaica who imports like, you know, an insignificant amount of animals in terms of our business. So that probably was the reason that kind of put a halt on importation. I don't know what the conditions are now. I've never checked it out. I don't know if they're even worse or more stringent. I've just assumed, because I've not seen anybody doing it, I assume it's impossible for the live animals.
Yeah, for live animals, because we did look into it, it's next to impossible at the moment.
Based on the conditions they ask. Right?
Yeah, based on the conditions that Jamaica requires, it's hard to find a breeder that will match those standards and those criteria. So it's I think they're just basically trying to tell you don't even try. You know, and on one hand I get it, because you don't want some disease coming to Jamaica that Jamaica is not capable of handling and wipe out our livestock. But on the other hand, it's like, yo, let's get with it. We're in 2020. Let's figure it out.
Yeah, definitely. There has to be a middle ground.
Yeah, I mean, science has advanced so much. Let's deal with this, because you're holding back progress of a sector. You know what I mean? All the other livestock sectors are moving forward, and people are figuring out how to deal with pork, how to deal with cattle. But it seems like small ruminant is just stuck. You know what I mean?
And I think one of the reasons why it's stuck is because it's mostly a poor man sector, so to speak. So we don't have a lot of clout.
Yeah, we don't have no great money lobbyists saying, "Hey,
Yeah,
you better change this
exactly.
because it's costing me."
Because
You know what I mean?
what I mean, people bring in cows, don't they?
Yeah, they bring cows or cows embryos, all kinds of stuff
Yeah,
that comes.
exactly.
When I talk to, established farmers like
Yeah.
cattle farmer, they tell us like, how many animals come in, this type of animal, that type of animal, or embryo or whatever, and it's just and the same for pigs. Guys will tell me how much pig come in from Canada and all that stuff. So
And
I guess
horses.
horses. I know. I'm sure no limit on horses. I'm pretty sure you
Yeah.
can bring any horse you want.
Them can't mess with them people, them money people, them, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Dr. Young said there's no imports for cattle, pigs, and goat or sheep. I don't know. Well, I guess she would know because Nutrimix is doing a lot of importation of semen and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you might be right. Well, I don't
Yeah,
import
she
those.
says they haven't brought in cows for decades. So I guess the
Oh,
same. I guess they're shutting it down across the board. I guess.
but we should keep our eye. I know for sure the McConnells want to import some cows. They were in the
Yeah.
paper a couple of months ago. They
Mhm.
had identified some cows that they say would like double, triple, or whatever the milk yield of
Yeah.
our current thing. And I think they are facing some roadblocks right now. But let's see how far their clout go.
Well, you know what I mean. The Minister of Agriculture is going around the country, and people are telling him over and over that they need to figure out this red tape because it's holding back progress. So let's see what he does. Next question for you is: what success did the importation of these new animals, these new genetics, what success did you see from your end?
Um, well, yeah. First of all, I mean, it brought in a meat type of animal, the Boer goat,
Mm-hmm.
versus the more milk kind of animal in Nubian and Alpine that was here. And
Yeah.
so naturally, it's going to have an effect on the growth rate of
Mm-hmm.
the kids that we have on our farm overall. And what a lot of people don't mention too, the goats look nice, right? And they also pique interest.
Yeah.
You understand? Although that might not be so much an economic benefit and whatever, but it piques interest from farmers. And you have to give it that a lot of, I mean, the goat industry is not thriving as it should, but a lot of what's keeping it alive is the hobby farmer that likes how the goats look, that likes to have, a couple goats in the backyard, nice looking goats, like, sometimes you have the American dream where they want to have two cars in the garage and vacation every year. Apart, the Jamaican dream is especially for a person living abroad. So come home and 5 acres of land and a couple goats in the backyard. You understand? And
Yeah.
that kind of hobby farmer has been keeping the industry alive.
Okay. Good. So what production style did you implement to have success with these animals once they come here? Because I'm sure the environment is different, the feed is different, a lot is different. The climate may be similar, but Jamaica stay warm all year round. In Texas, it gets cooler in the
Yeah,
winter time.
yeah. Well, I think the animals that came from Canada initially probably had a harder time adjusting to Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
But the ones from Texas, they probably adjusted a little quicker. But the thing is, one other thing I know, when you go to Texas, they have the goats outside in pasture, right?
Mm-hmm.
But technically, they don't have them on pasture. Because I spoke to a Texan goat farmer once, and he said the grass on the pasture was basically more like ground cover.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't put them in the pasture to eat the grass as a part of their nutrition, so to speak. Because they feed them hay on pasture, and they feed them grains, sometimes like ad-lib grains right through the day on pasture. So one of the mistakes a lot of farmers made when the Boer goats came to Jamaica, some of us put them on pasture as a part of the diet, right?
Yeah.
the pasture could not support the kind of the frames of these goats, you know. So eventually, most people like myself eventually kind of steered back to the more intensive management.
Okay. So you just converted to a straight intensive production system.
That's right. In the beginning, I had a combination, and then
Okay.
when I had the farm in Clarendon, I had a lot of land, so I was definitely more like 90% intensive,
Okay.
right? But
Mm-hmm.
eventually, based on the performance of the animals, it kept coming back like to like 50% intensive, right? So right now, as we're speaking today, I'm 100% intensive.
Okay. And you find that to be better for Boer goats.
I mean, it's better for boars, better for purebreds, because the frame of these bigger animals cannot be supported by grass, especially pasture grass. The nutrient content in pasture grass in Jamaica is very unreliable. You might just as the rain started and the grass started growing, you might get nice nutritious grass, but some like now the rain is falling so constantly. No time the grass matures and the nutrient profile falls, and then when there's no rain again and it's not growing, the nutrient profile of the grass falls again, right? And we don't have that kind of professional pasture management like
Well, some
some of
people
the
don't.
dairy
Some
people in the
well,
states
some people
do.
don't. Some people don't.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
That's another story. But I
That's
must
a
tell
whole
you, though,
different
Raina,
story. Yeah.
yeah, some people don't. Some people don't. But it's kind of technical to have that kind of pasture management.
It is
Number
very,
one,
to be
yeah,
honest, because we do it and we know, Khalil is on here. He can attest to
yeah,
that. It's a whole management system on its own,
definitely,
and it's
definitely.
not for somebody who doesn't have the discipline to manage it.
That's right. That's right.
It's as much record keeping as the goats. You know what I mean? Because we
That is
have to
so
make
true.
sure we hit pastures at the right time if we want to make sure we get the maximum nutrients out of it.
Yes,
So yeah, it's definitely a whole different system that you have to manage. Another thing
that's
you
right.
have to manage. So I understand why some people won't do it. But once like any other thing, once you get the groove of it and set up a system, then it start working. You know.
Yeah, but
Um,
yeah, so that's, I mean, boy, I mean, a lot of people know that I mean, I personally, I don't believe the grass, no matter how good you get at the intensive management, I just don't believe pasture with grass is going to work for goats in the long run.
Okay, hold on.
Because,
Let's answer a couple questions. Somebody's asked what intensive
yeah.
means. So you want to tell them what intensive means?
Oh, sorry. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. I must should pay. Intensive management is basically when you have the goats locked up and you bring all the feed to them. So that when you say 100% intensive, that means they're locked up all the time, and you cut the feed from the pasture, or you go to the store and buy the grains, or you buy the hay and bring it to the goats. Right? That's intensive management. So some people have combination. They might let out the goats sometime, like in the mornings, feed them in the evenings, or let them out when in the rainy season, or keep them in the rainy. Different people have different management styles. But intensive management is basically when you bring the feed to the goats.
Yeah. So our system is as we call a semi-intensive system.
Yes,
So
I
we
figured.
have, yeah, all our maintenance mothers go to pasture, but all the
Yes,
animals that are in production, whether they're about to have kids on them, or getting ready for market, they stay in they get cut and carry system and grain
that's a good
to
idea. Yeah,
yeah. But all of our maintenance mothers go to pasture because
yes,
we got nice pastures, and we
yeah,
do a
yeah.
very good job at rotation grazing.
Great.
Yeah. Um. So so you just went straight to intensive production because you discovered that they weren't being productive grazing, or you knew in advance that it wouldn't work?
No, I discovered through my experience. I tried the rotational grazing like you were doing, and it just didn't work. But I'm not saying it won't. One of the reasons didn't work for me. I'm inclined, and I don't think you have enough rainfall. I was in Rhinesburg. I don't think you have enough rainfall in Rhinesburg to do proper rotation for grazing. Because I was speaking to Dr. Tay once, and he was saying something about you need at least 30 inches of rain on average. In Kleinland, I mean, the place basically is dry. You could have like 100, 200, 300 acres, and sometimes you look at just pure dirt going all the way down. And then when the rainy season comes, it just rain, right? So it's difficult to put up a predictable and consistent rotational grazing in place. So that was one of the biggest challenge for that. And even when you do try some kind of rotational grazing, I found in Clarendon, you end up with another problem. Just about sometime when the grass is getting at its peak production, sometimes you might have a situation where that's when the worm population is also at its peak.
Yeah.
So you have to mitigate that as well.
Okay. Got it. Somebody asked, what was your feeding plan since you're doing intensive? What was your feeding plan?
Back then or now?
Back then, now, because I guess it's evolved quite a bit.
Yeah, it has evolved. I mean, back then, I would have them on pasture. As I did less on pasture management, so to speak, I would buy like orange pulp, beer trash. I never at the time in Kleiner, I never bought hay. But oh yes, I used to use a lot of cane, sugar cane, because there was a lot of sugar cane, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sugar cane sometimes is a nice alternative to hay, because sugar cane during the wet season, sugar cane can be growing and you can be storing it in the field without you bringing it inside, storing it in the field that it's growing, and then during the dry time you can cut it. So it's kind of a method of storage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I mean, some things have changed since then. I don't think orange pulp is so much available now. And then the beer trash has gotten scarcer and scarcer.
So what do you feed now? Do you feed now?
No, boy, I have to be buying that expensive bag feed, number one. And I have hay. But right now I'm not as today I'm not using hay. I have a shop shed with about probably 100 bales of hay now. But I'm using that only in emergency. As the rain is falling, I have a lot of guinea grass around. I have some moringa and I have some cassava planted that I can cut. And I have a little sugar cane growing nicely. That I'm not even touching the sugar cane. When February comes around and everything dried up, I'm going to have my nice sugar cane,
So when you say a little disagree, how many acres are we talking here?
Right where I'm at with the goats now, I probably have about 8 acres available. I don't have, and I probably have about 3 acres. That's a combination of sugarcane, moringa, and cassava. But
okay.
The moringa now is not 100% for the goats. I have another thing I do with the moringa, with the moringa powder that I make, and I have some new products coming out. Our moringa water, I have to plug it.
So hold on, the moringa. What's the yield on the moringa if somebody decide that they're gonna put it create it as a fodder bank? What is the yield on it? Is it worthwhile to have moringa just to feed your animals, just to feed your goats? What's the yield on it?
Yeah, I think the moringa is pretty. I can't give you the figures. I mean, you probably have to talk to some of these scientists or researchers to give you the exact figures. But moringa is pretty good because it's drought tolerant, and it keeps the nutrient profile a lot longer than grass. Once grass starts growing, in a couple of weeks, it matures. So
how fast does it grow? How fast does it grow?
If you have nice rainfall and you plant moringa today, in probably 3 months you can start reaping little leaves. depending on the level of rainfall that you have. All right.
Okay.
But the big thing about it is once it gets to like tree size and you cut him down, no matter how dry it is always producing leaf. In the middle of summer with no rainfall, the Moringa, once the tree gets mature and the roots are very tall, find that moisture down in the thing, producing leaves right through.
Okay, so I gotta look into that and maybe.
Yeah, man, you can look into it. I mean, the downside of that is the downside of Moringa, you probably have to harvest it with a cutlass. It's not going to be machine harvest.
Yeah, but but if I plant it in the middle of my pastures, can the animals get to it and eat it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if the animals get to it, they're going to probably strip it.
Yeah, but I'm saying if I protect it to get to a certain height.
Yes.
And then, then I can reap what they can reach, but then when they do that rotation and come back to that spot in 6 weeks, they will have some leaves they can reach, and then I can cut the top and feed, cut and carry.
Absolutely, you can do that, definitely.
Okay, good. So how many animals you currently have?
Okay, I currently have approximately 40 animals. Not all 40 animals in all, including kids.
Okay.
Yeah, I have about 25 breeding females.
And these are the original lines that you brought in.
These are part of the original lines that I brought in, yes.
Have you seen improvement on them, or they stay the same?
In terms of?
In terms of growth rate, size, mature size.
I wouldn't say I've seen a lot of improvement because basically, I mean, it's been a struggle keeping the lines alive. I brought in 4 separate lines in the beginning.
Yeah.
The full 100 X-Man, Magnum, and Bad Boy. And to support them, I brought in the females. At one point, I didn't mention to you earlier on, I did bring in about 15 females through Dr. T at one point to support them. But over the years, I've lost 2 other lines. Because in the beginning, I was keeping them separate.
Yeah.
So right now, I only have X-Man at the Magnum line, and the Magnum line is holding by a thread, right? But I have mostly the X-Man line.
So you didn't do any semen storage?
I did some semen storage at Borders at one point. But the last time I inquired about it, they said there were no semen at Borders. I would love to speak to somebody to see if that has changed. I did. They came on a farm and I took some full 100 semen, not directly from full 100, but one of his progeny, and I gave. I don't remember how much, but I stored some semen at Borders at the time, so I have no idea if that is still existing.
And when do you usually have animals available for sale?
There's no specific time. Basically, someone just has to call, and see. Like I should have some about February. Next year, February, I should have some.
And what's your approximate price range?
Approximate price range is about 120,000 a piece.
Cool. So there you have it, folks. You can hit him up in February. I don't know if he's gonna have any, because I'm pretty sure they're already sold.
Right? I see a question from Trinjam. What year? She asking what year we gave the semen.
Yes, I guess I don't know. I assume that's what she's asking.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't remember. It was probably just before we did that. You remember when we did that experimental? When we did the semen? When we did the semen importation from Australia? It was probably about a year before that, or June that time. And that's about when Borders got the semen tank, right? I think it's around about that time, whatever year that was.
Well, it seems like there should be like semen for these animals sitting there because somebody's not gonna toss it out. If the what line the Alpine semen is there, then your semen's got to be there.
Yeah, I hope so.
But did you own it or did you donate it to them?
No, I didn't own it personally.
Okay,
It was a part of the goat
part of a project.
foundation
Yeah.
storage, so
Okay.
it would be accessible by anybody.
Okay. Well, you know, what I mean, that's an important line. Somebody should find out if it's still available.
What
Well,
advice would you give to upcoming farmers? You know, I have to pay more attention to some of these questions. I'm looking at you and
yeah,
I'm
we'll get
speaking
to
and
them.
I'm
We'll get
looking.
to them. We'll get to them. We'll get to them. But you can
All
answer
right,
that.
good.
You can, you know what I mean? Usually I wrap up the thing with that kind of question. Advice you give to farmers. I want to get through some other stuff.
Sure, sure.
You know what I mean? So how would you want to see the sector evolve? Or where have you seen it evolve since when you started to where it is now? And where would you like to see it go?
You know, in terms of when I started, to a certain extent, it's like we have not moved really, in that there's no organization, there's no channels, like the pig association and the egg association. There's no organized channel, so it's the same as way back then. It's a shame. It's the same. I mean, the only thing I've seen change is, social media is well established now, so farmers have more access to selling the animals.
Mm-hmm.
Farmers have more access to learn from other farmers and see what's happening. They have more access to see what other farmers are doing, to be more encouraged. The second thing that has changed, and the two feed companies have definitely changed. I think they're more active. I mean, whereby I think even the semen importation that's happening now, I think if they didn't come on board and push it with their corporate strength, it probably wouldn't happen.
That's true.
I mean, so and if embryo comes, or if live animals even come at some point, I have a suspicion that maybe it's a feed company is going to have to spearhead that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I see some of the feed companies doing different formulations now. Previously the goat was like a lost stepchild. They just, so I must commend the two feed companies. They get more involved, and they have the vets going around to help give advice and whatever. It's good.
Here's a question: what seems to be the largest barrier to entry for the goat farmer to scale up? Is it pretty large on your side? What's the
Yeah,
biggest?
yeah. Of course, she mentioned. She said aside, the biggest one aside, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. The biggest barrier I think is forage availability, right? Forage availability and our land availability, because a lot of people, they love raising goats, and sometimes they don't have the land available, they don't have the forage available, and they go ahead and buy a lot of goats. And then when they realize that it's expensive to purchase feed, no matter how you take it, no matter what, if you're buying ops or pulp, or it's expensive, right? Or hay, it's expensive, or bag feed. So that's probably one of the biggest barriers. You have to have land to raise goats. If you don't have land, it don't make sense. I mean, especially meat goats. I mean, you can get away with the breeding stock by buying hay and bag feed and supplemented with like a 1 acre forage plot. But if you're raising meat goats, you need land.
Good. Solid advice. Question I have for a lot of farmers is, how do you have these grand aspirations, but not thinking about how you're gonna facilitate it? Like one farmer I was talking to, he's thinking he's living on about an acre, 2 acres of land, and half of that is used up by his residents, But then he tells me his goal is to get to 400 animals, 400 breeding females. I'm like, where are you going to put them? He's like, no, we're going to build a pen back there. I'm like, then how are you going to feed them? You're going to use what you got left, you're going to use it to build a pen to house these animals. Then how are you going to feed them?
Ray, I mean, there's a thing they call goat fever. I'm sure you've heard about it, right? I mean, even I tell you a story. I mean, I was guilty of the same thing. Because back when I was just getting in the goat thing and you get excited and all about. There was a guy in St. Thomas, right? I think he's a Chinese guy, Chin.
Mm-hmm.
He was selling out. And him call and say, I have to get rid of these goats and, you know, I go down to St. Thomas and buy the goats, then put them in a truck, bring them up to the farm. I had no way even to put the goats in. You know, I make a little hurricane fence on the goat him and started building the pen around the goats that was already there. Not to mention forage, non-existent. You know what I say? So some of us have been there, and that's just not the way to do it. You know? So we have to learn from people like myself who made those mistakes and put a plan in place. You know?
Yeah,
like you see, like you're studying the forage part of it. You have to study. Yeah, you have to be a forage farmer first before you even be a livestock farmer.
Yeah, like for us, the amount of research we put in before we started, you know, we had a grasp of how we want this thing to start, how we want it to grow. We built a goat pen, and there people are laughing at us saying, "Well, you build this massive goat pen for because we only had like 7 animals. We bought 7 goats. Goat pen built, we bought 7 goats, right?" And everybody's laughing like, all this for 7 goats. But I explained to them like, no, there's a bigger picture. I don't want to build as I go along. I want to grow into it. And then while I'm growing, then I can project to see when I should build another pen or expand on what I have. You know what I mean? I don't want to get into that situation where I bring home 100 goats and don't know what to do with them. You know, I want to learn as I go along, figure out what our limitations are, come up with systems that will work for us, and then we can add animals as we go along. And every day we face challenges, something new, some we never know could happen, you know, some we never seen before. You know, thank God for YouTube University and we keep, and what's the next one? Google University. Because you can always find help or somebody experienced something like that before, and you get some information. So I think farmers now are living in a greater time than when someone like you started.
That's right.
You know?
That's right.
Yeah. So that's helpful, but as you said, the goat fever thing is a real thing. You know what I mean? It's a real thing. People just love buying goats. You know what I mean? So where would you like to see the sector go now? Like, would you want to see things? What would you like to see change? And how would you like to see the sector compete with the likes of the pork industry, the chicken industry?
Wow. I mean, we have to get some organization going, you know? You know, for people who want to come in and raise goats and want to do it as a business from get-go. They want to see where am I going to buy breeding stock from, where I'm going to get the females, where am I going to sell the finished products, you know, to? Who am I going to sell it to? What are the channels, etc. We have to get some organization going.
I know that back in the day, because I think you and I spoke when I was doing my research and investigatory work to start the farm. I spoke to you briefly. I don't think you knew who you were talking to. It didn't really matter. But you told me that you actually had a goat meat brand in the store.
Oh, I had. Maybe when I spoke to you, I probably had, because I only did it briefly. I did for about a year. I did for about a year. I had a goat meat brand at Price Mart. Only at Price Mart.
Okay, Price Mart.
Even manage the supply, right? and the demand for it was crazy at the time. So I had to drop it.
Because you couldn't keep up the supply.
Yeah, because just to supply that market, I had to be purchasing animals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's no way I could raise enough animals to do that. And then purchasing animals got more and more difficult over time. So
Yeah.
like every week it get harder. I had and I started like buying animals like weeks before I needed them.
Yeah.
You know? And
Mm-hmm.
just do I look a feedlot thing, I just put them in pasture so I would always have them. But it just got harder and harder and harder.
Okay. And how much meat what did you have to deliver per week?
Um, I don't remember the figures. I
Mm-hmm.
definitely don't remember
Okay.
the figures. But I remember that, they wanted more and more and more and more.
So moving forward, if you had to do it all over again, how would you approach it? Would you partner with other farmers, or what would you do
Definitely,
differently?
you need, I mean, if you want to get some, I mean, there are two ways of doing it, I think. If you want to get to go into the organized section of the market, like a mega mart or the supermarket, you definitely have to team up with a group of farmers, probably all over the island, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and decide how much are you going to produce. Where are you going to feedlot the animals, right? Because for example, like somebody in a wetter area like St. Anne or Portland could have like more like breeding stock,
Yeah.
more like breeder animals.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody that's like in Clarendon, St. Catherine, that is closer to the byproduct
Yeah.
mills and stuff, to the feedlot, for example,
Yeah.
and get that organized so that when these supermarkets ask for 1,000 pounds, 2,000 pounds, 10,000 pounds, you can supply them because they don't want you to bring in something this week and then next week you say, boy, I'm not have none this week, you know what I say? Because
Yeah.
they want their customers to come in and see the same item every single week.
Yeah. Consistency.
Yeah,
That's the key. Like, I mean,
yeah.
doesn't make sense going
Barring,
if you can't deliver.
yeah, definitely, you need consistency. If we're not going to get to that point of organization, then individual farmers could probably do a thing where they raise the animals and brand it, maybe have their own individual brand and sell it online because a lot of people doing deliveries now. And there's a certain section of the market that probably likes to know the farmer that's selling that they're getting the food from. Like say Ray have like Ray, Ram Goat, Ray, they
Yeah,
want
it's
to know.
what they call a CSA model.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And the social media and the internet is at a point now where you can communicate with anybody anywhere. People
Mm-hmm.
can reach out to you. So that's another possibility that individual farmers can look at if
I
they don't
think
want
that's
to
the
join a
most,
big group.
in fact, I think that's the most viable option at the moment
Could be, yes.
is to create your own little brand, and
Yes,
you
definitely.
know that you're gonna butcher your animal at 80 pounds, and you butcher him and you package it, you put it in a free and you sell it. As
Exactly.
you go, you sell it. And
Yes.
there's no commitment that you have to deliver 1,000 pounds or 500 pounds. If you have 200 pounds, when the 200 pounds done, when people, you just tell people we're out till next month, and you know what I mean. But
Precisely.
if you structure your production system, you could consistently have 200 pounds
Definitely.
any given moment. You know what I mean? Because that's another thing that I'm pushing with farmers is to start doing group breeding so you can have product throughout the year instead of have to get rid of everything at a certain time of the year or keep them and let them bleed your pocket. But then there's a blank section of the year when animals are breeding or whatever, there's no product. But for us, we're trying to develop a system where we try to kid every other month and limit the number of animals that we're breeding at a given moment based on how much space we have to deal with the kids. And I implore everybody to try this because one, mortality rates down, and kids grow faster because you can actually manage them. And
That's right.
then when you have product throughout the year and you're in a routine, every other month you're gonna, 15 kids, 15 mothers gonna have kids or as whatever it is you can manage. But you do it throughout the year as you go along and you always have product. And then you can develop a proper CSA where your brand new liquor goat meat and you mean manage water kit and all that stuff. You know what I mean? And you sell it. Or
Yeah.
from your spot, you have a little car you can put, buy 2 igloo, put them in there and go deliver them.
That's
And
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a viable model, I
Yeah.
think. You
And
know what I
what
mean?
you do to know you have a cutoff age that you slaughter your animals. Then that you
Yes.
choose 8 months, 10 months. I
Yes.
like 10 months. 10 months is
Hmm.
a night. I love the 10
Exactly.
months cutoff. The meat is not too tender. Because sometimes when it's younger, it's a little bit tender, too tender, and people
Hmm.
say, "What's this chicken?" They're not used to that tenderness.
And then them
But I
start spray
yeah.
themselves and give Jamaica the smell them want. When them get to
Yeah,
like 8 months,
exactly.
9 months, them start spray themselves and start smell like ram goat.
That's a nice
And
balance. Them have
and
the
Jamaica
ram goat
love that.
smell, but the
Yeah.
meat still soft,
Uh-huh.
right? You put a product like that on the market, that's a rare ram goat, rare goat, and you
Yeah.
cut up, you kill at that age and no older,
Yeah.
then people get accustomed to your tenderness,
Hmm.
your quality, and them always expect that. Them can come back to you. Because when I'm going to the supermarket, they're going to have an inconsistent quality.
Yeah.
They're going to get like a 10-month goat today. Next year is a 2-year goat, a
Hmm.
3-year goat, and there's
Exactly.
no consistency. So you give them a consistency, charge
Hmm.
extra for it. If you have a brand and you're not charging extra, it don't make sense.
Yeah.
Charge extra for it, have a set of customer that always coming back to you, and
Yeah.
that's it.
And I see Marsha there from Farmer to Farmer saying about small abattoirs. Yeah, we had the health people them come here to guide us through building one, and we're surprised to see how simple the process is.
Yeah,
And it doesn't take a lot of capital to do it. It's just that you have to be disciplined and have a business model and stick with it and execute. Like people can talk and have these great grand aspirations, but if you don't have a strategic plan to execute it and be disciplined enough to stick to it, then you
yeah,
won't get there. That's just my spiel for
exactly.
tonight, I guess.
Yeah, you don't need no super duper
No,
international standard
no,
abattoir. I
no.
mean, the local authorities just want to know that you have a clean place, insect
Hmm.
mesh, running water,
Hmm.
sanitary. You need a power saw. I mean, you have to buy. You can go online and get one of those cheaper meat saws from Alibaba or something. You know,
Yeah.
or
Hmm.
get a second-hand saw, get some packaging done, put a brand, a sticker on your brand, and you're good to go.
Yeah. It's not that hard, you know what I mean? And I would encourage farmers to take that approach. Don't think it's not possible. You know what I mean? And farmers should try to do more than one things on the farm. Like don't just do goat. You know what I mean? Like if you're gonna do goat meat and sell goat meat, then start sell the people them some pop chow too. Start sell them a bundle of callaloo. You know what I mean? Start sell them. I'm telling you, like amazing how it would work if somebody start buying goat meat from you and love them goat meat. Love your goat meat.
Yeah,
Send them a complimentary bundle of callaloo or pop chow or something and say, yo, I'm gonna
yeah,
start selling this next week, Check
of
it out, see if
course.
you like how it tastes or it good or whatever, and then we can start add it to your thing. And before you know it, the man start asking, yo, when you bring my meat, bring me a bunk of callaloo, no? And then you start selling more things. So I think
Yeah.
that approach, I think for small